That was a good episode that you guys did with Jake. I remember listening to that and being like turned off of watching the movie. I think I listened to that episode twice. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to watch. And then I watched the movie. And I was like, oh, it's fine. But it was, but your guy, Jake's take on the sort of subject, like it's an interesting movie, but it's like I kind of feel the same way about this movie, where it's like, what is this? What is it about? Like, what are you trying to say? You're exposing something, but there's no. It's almost like the creator is too close to the subject to actually have a. So I was saying, like, watching the Alex thing was like, if Werner Herzog had done it, he would have done it like he was watching a nature show. I'm like, why do these people act this way? And
yeah.
You know?
Why is this fat man selling supplements?
Did you guys have any sort of expectations for this documentary? Because I guess I did, because I was expecting it to be, I don't know. The initial word was that it's not a puff piece, and then you watch it and it's kind of a puff piece. They go very easy on him, which I don't mind because I like Alex Jones. I have an InfoWars shirt downstairs in the basement here. But I don't know. I expected a little more even Steven here, and that's
it didn't really go in on the points that were. They didn't really go in on the points that were like super interesting. Like they kind of just brushed over the whole building a church for the Branch Davidians, and like after Waco and then like kind of
his origins, his dad that was like a glowy. And like,
yeah, that was when he introduced like his dad as being really involved in some sort of like intelligence or like high up black operations of some kind, and then also being surrounded by like psychedelic counterculture of like the 70s or whatever, but then says nothing further about it. And you're just like, what the fuck?
That was the biggest problem with this documentary for me, is I think there is so much more interesting information about Alex Jones that predates 2010 that they only kind of touched on pretty sparingly. The beginning of the movie takes place around, I think, like a 2020 protest, the Stop the Steal protest with Ali Alexander and all these like right-wing guys. And then you cut back into his history a little bit where he's covering Bohemian Grove, and that's kind of the thing that makes him like a known quantity as far as like, the conspiracy radio shows and whatnot. And then they have a clip of him very accurately predicting 9/11 happening and what the root cause and all that months before it occurs. And then you just hop into Sandy Hook and then 2020 and all the legal problems. And I don't know. I don't think that's as interesting. Maybe because we're bombarded with it currently. Maybe it'll age better the further away from this moment we get. But I just didn't find all of that as compelling as learning more about Alex Jones' roots.
Yeah. Exactly, and his motivators as well. I mean, it's like not clear what he's being motivated by and his ethos and what drives him. Like, I would have liked to see I would have liked to peer beneath the kayfabe, if you know what I mean. Like to see the person behind the like bombastic media character. And I'm like, what's the point of making a documentary if you're not going to at least try to like peer behind the curtain? Like
I feel like you get the surface layer of it.
Yeah, like, a little bit. But I remember last year, for instance, like if I was making like last year, or was it the year before, there was like all this drama that came out because his wife divorced him, and she started talking to the media, and she was like, he's like schizo, he's insane. Like there's so many different. I would like to see Alex Jones from maybe his wife's perspective or like his son's perspective, just like a perspective that isn't like wrapped in his like media character, if you know what I mean. But it was just kind of,
as for the motivations, I feel like you do kind of see it just in how his life has kind of progressed. It is kind of not like an in-depth, but it's a biography, and it does kind of cover all the bases from like the beginning and how he started to become popular and get syndicated and then get like petitioned basically by another British journalist to go to Bohemian Grove. But he, back in the sort of 90s, it looked like it was really just the first, like he was angry. He wanted like to motivate people. He really had like this spur and spirit about him to kind of like rant and rave in the way that he did. But then kind of as the internet picks up and he has this whole business model attached to it and he starts, selling supplements as Hans.
But it wasn't even entirely apolitical at the beginning, which was kind of how it was framed, was he was just sort of this, amorphous kind of libertarian guy ranting against like the deep state, but he was like connected to the Branch Davidians, which is like a Christian doomsday cult. Like,
Yeah.
I think that it didn't penetrate the layers as much as it could have, and like anyone who sort of wants to follow these threads probably could, but I still don't understand why the film didn't, considering its runtime.
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem with it, that I'm not 100% familiar with his entire history, obviously, because why would I? But I'm familiar with him enough where I didn't really learn anything new. Everything that was said in the 210, I think is how long the
Yeah, this
movie
is too long.
Yeah.
This is for a documentary on any subject, really. I mean, look, you could probably do a 4-hour documentary on Alex Jones, but 2 hours and 10 minutes. Either do like a series and break it up and cover his history that way, or make it a good like 110-minute.
Well, especially when you're not saying anything. It felt like a portrait documentary, and I don't have a problem with that. It feels very much like her other movie, that what is it? No, TJIF. What is it?
Yeah, TJIF. That's right. Bob Saget's dead. Yeah, no, her last documentary, not. I would say this one has more of a structure to it. It's not as aimless as TFW No GF was, where it's just kind of like you're cruising in and out of the lives of these 4 or 5 guys.
But what I mean is that there's not, I guess, a narrative, which I like. I don't like what Netflix does most of the time, where they tell you this is the story and we're telling you one side of the story and this is just a narrative created behind it. This felt more like a portrait on someone that I already kind of knew that didn't really teach me anything new. It kind of felt like, do you remember that Patrice O'Neill documentary that Comedy Central put out, where it's like, oh, we're just going to tell stories that everyone that's slightly familiar with him already knows. So then it's just an hour and a half of, oh, I already knew that. I didn't really learn anything. You know.
Is that the documentary that his widow banked a whole bunch of money on, and then it never came out, and then someone else bought it?
Yep.
That's terrible. I didn't watch that, but
There's
I'll
those
dodge
like,
that.
Chris Farley, Robin Williams documentaries that are like that are just so like really kind of vanilla.
Yeah, just taking advantage of the fans that want to see something of this person that died, and then it's just no information.
They cover the hot, with the stuff that everybody knows, and then it's over. And at the end is like, well, but then this didn't even have an end of like, oh, he fucked up. It was just kind of like, what do you guys
they don't know
think?
where to go because the story's not over yet. He's got all these legal. I mean, did you guys see that he
$150 million?
He perjured himself live on the stand because his attorney sent a copy of his phone to the people trying to bilk him. Yeah, insane how that happens. How does that lawyer not just lose? First of all, lose all their business, if not get debarred.